Welcome to round 1 of the Conquest Champions Battle Report League. In this league, we have 8 players who are pitted against each other in an elimination tournament. This round, we have Will going up against Brodie. Who's going to win? Watch to find out. I'm your commentator, Jacob Lucas. The players are competing not only for the title of the first Conquest champion, but also for the prize of one army set of their choice from the Conquest Creation web store. I sell high quality resin 3D printed miniatures. You can get these models in warband sets or in full army sets, so in one click you can get all the models you need for your next project. There's $10 worldwide shipping as well as free shipping for orders over $200. By buying these products, you are growing the channel. As a special deal for the first 10 people to use the discount code CCRound1, you get a free Irreverent model. This is an awesome orc captain in heavy armor on a wolf. Now, let's get to the battle report.
How you going, guys? I'm William. I've been in the hobby for about a year competitively.
My name's Brodie. I've been in this hobby for about a year and a half now. This will be probably my 6th or 7th competitive game. I think I've been in one competition before now. I would definitely say I'm an underdog. I feel like I'm not to be messed with, so.
And there we have it, folks, our 2 players. Will Brodie's inexperience hamper him, or will he have some beginner's luck? Let's meet their army lists for our battle report today.
Yeah, so I'm running Assault on Helms Deep. Essentially no named heroes, just a lot of dudes with pikes and shields. Have a ballista.
Will's Isengard army is absolutely lethal. He recently came 2nd place in an interstate tournament using it. I'm expecting big things out of this list. That ballista is scary.
My army lists 4 swordsmen or 4 Rivendell high elves with swords, 4 with spears, 5 Rivendell knights, 1 of them with a banner, Glorfindel, and a mounted captain.
Glorfindel is such a powerhouse. It's going to be interesting to see if his strength can pay off this game. If you want to see the full army list, go to the link in the description down below where they're available on the Conquest Creation website.
My tactic was to essentially just tie up all the enemy models and the enemy characters, and then just pin them down with the ballista.
My tactics hopefully will be to get enough sturdy charges off with the knights that I can manage to knock down the front line of Irreverent Guy at least a little bit, while Glorfindel kind of swings around and takes out the shamans and the main heroes so that there's no might around the board.
I am going to win this game 100%.
Today's battle sector is a Rohan village. This village has a lot of big line of sight blocking houses, but it does have big open spaces in the middle as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how this board dictates how Brodie's going to avoid that ballista. In the Conquest Champions League, 3 scenarios are randomly generated. Then the players roll off and each player gets to veto one of them. This makes the game a lot more balanced, and it's what we've begun doing in tournaments across Australia. The 3 random scenarios have been generated. We have Fog of War, Storm the Camp, and Divide and Conquer. All of these scenarios are actually really balanced for this army matchup, so I'm interested to see which player does what. We're going to roll off to see who vetoes one first.
I got a 6, so it'll be me.
And what would you like to veto?
Storm the Camp.
I'm going to get rid of Divide and Conquer.
So Fog of War it is. The objectives in Fog of War are to select one of your heroes that isn't your leader to keep alive the whole game, select one of the enemy heroes that is not their leader to kill, as well as a terrain piece on the enemy side of the board to capture. The final objective is to break your opponent. Brodie won the roll-off to see who would pick table sides, so he's deploying first. I'm really interested to see which hero Brodie chose to kill. It was an easy choice for Will. Because Brodie only has one hero, the High Elf Captain, who isn't his leader, that must automatically be Will's choice to kill and Brodie's choice to keep alive. The deployment for this scenario is 12 inches onto the board. Brodie went central with his High Elves, so unsurprisingly, Will is also just going central with his Shaman Warband. In response to this, Brodie's second warband of the Knights are just going on the flank. They're really fast, so they'll be easy to redeploy if he doesn't want them there later on, and they need to stay safe from that ballista. Because Brodie's army was just 2 warbands, that means that he is done. and will place the rest of his Isengard horde. He has one big warband with his beefed up captain on the flank, and his ballista just goes central. He was debating whether or not to put it on the flank, but I think center was definitely the best choice. And this is what the board looks like after all of the models are deployed. Isengard split up, and looks like Rivendell is potentially going to split up and send the knights down the flank as well. Turn 1 priority went to Brodie leading the Rivendell elves, and looks like he's just advancing half speed with his knights, so he's probably going to get some bow shots off. Rivendell knights are a brutal unit in the game. They're super fast, they have elven bows, and they hit like an absolute truck with high fight and lances. The elven infantry just advanced, staying in cover where they're safe from that ballista. And Brodie's just putting Glorfindel with the rest of his knights. Makes sense to team them up. So that goes into Isengard's movement phase. Will, what are you thinking here?
What I'm thinking is I'm going to try and tie up the cav, or try and catch the cav if possible, and let the main force deal with the rest of the army while the cav is wasting their time on few models. So I'm just going to move the ballista, and it's essentially just going to sit against the edge here and get a good 180 degree fire arc.
And looks like the main Uruk-hai block is just pushing into the fields and some going out wide. In the shooting phase, Brodie's knights are just eyeing down the Uruk-hai block down the line there. And after the shooting, no Uruk-hai was slain. So the ballista can't shoot this turn, but this is just its point of view. So it's going to be able to cover a lot of the board and maybe threaten those knights in a couple turns. Priority this turn went to Isengard.
I'm going to call a heroic march with my leader. Only his warband will be in range.
So that's the Uruk-hai and his warband moving forward a full 9 inches, closing that gap quickly. The march here was an interesting call. I was expecting Will to sit back and just try to get his ballista into position where he has a firing advantage.
With the big energy that I have, the ballista is moving for a second turn. And it's going to shuffle like that.
And in the rest of the Isengard movement, the block of pikes and shields just moved up. And on the far side, the group of Uruk-hai is likely going for the terrain piece objective. And we're into Rivendell movement now.
So I'm just moving a singular knight here just so he can be in behind this one for a shot behind a friend in the next turn. I'm just going to slide these guys over just so there's less threat of having this ballista shoot any of these guys in the coming turns. And these guys over here are just going to wrap slightly back around here.
And this is our board after the movement phase. The Isengard is getting very close to the Rivendell lines, and Rivendell hasn't really pushed onto the other side of the board. Brodie's definitely playing defensive this game. I don't know if that's the right call, but it's going into his shooting phase. He's got a couple in the ways on these Uruk-hai. And a single pikeman died. So one pikeman killed by Rivendell, and Isengard can't shoot this turn because again that ballista moved, but we can see its point of view is covering a lot of the board now. It's going to get harder and harder for Brodie to avoid that ballista. Priority this turn went to Isengard.
At the start of the movement, I call Channel with Fury with my Shaman.
Channel Fury on that Shaman is not only going to mean that these Uruk-hai auto-pass all their courage tests while within 6 inches of him, but it also means every time they take a wound, on a 6, that wound is ignored and they stay alive. That could save a lot of Uruk-hai. 2 will dice to see if you can cast it off on a 3+. Oh. So that's Channel Fury up on the Shaman. The rest of the Isengard army is just pushing forwards, and now it's going to start to put pressure on Brodie. If Brodie doesn't back up, they're going to be able to charge him next turn. But there's no might on this side of the board, so it could mean a free win on the heroic move roll-off for the elves. I'm interested to see how Brodie responds to these advancing Uruks.
So the ballista will stay put this turn in hopes that he moves.
So Glorfindel's going to move his full 12 inches here so that he can tuck right in behind this building down here. So he's still out of range of the ballista, but he can see a couple of these guys over here for next turn. So these 2 horses in front are just going to move to the back around here, moving less than half their distance, just so if I don't get priority next turn, that the berserkers will not be able to charge in.
And this way, Brodie's going to maintain his shooting, trying to put as much damage out as possible before combat hits. And importantly, this move keeps him out of line of sight of that ballista. And this is what we're looking like after movement. Isengard closing down the gap. And in the shooting, that ballista has nothing in line of sight, so it goes straight to Brodie with the Rivendell Knights.
Needing 3s, needing 5s. That one fails.
After Elven shooting, no Uruk-hai were slain. In the next turn, priority went to Isengard. Brodie thought about it long and hard, but decided not to heroic. So Will, where's your movement going?
Captain, straight into these 2 elves that you can see here. And he's going to wrap into both of them.
Because Will's army is a part of the Assault on Helm's Deep Legendary Legion, that's not just a regular Uruk-hai captain, that's an Uruk-hai captain who gets +1 attack and wounds, making him very tough and very strong. We have 2 Uruk-hai here who are within 6 of Glorfindel, so they can charge.
Gonna move up the Shaman first so I can get that Fearless bubble before I charge him.
The Isengard being able to charge Glorfindel here was definitely a misplay from Brodie. If he'd positioned Glorfindel just a bit further back, he would have been able to get his charge bonus this turn. The rest of the Uruks are just chasing down the Cav. That Cav's been able to back up and just put some shots in that hasn't been very effective so far, so I think this is the turn where we're going to see them do some damage. And in the Elven movement, they're just charging that flanking Uruk-hai force with their spears for that higher fight value. And here, there you go. Those knights are going in for it. Brodie goes up and he charges a single pikeman in the back flank. Now those horses can move through the water freely because it is shallow water. And with the rest of the knights engaged, it's just the captain to go. Brodie's sending his captain into just 1 Uruk-hai. That Uruk-hai is 100% dead. And this is our lines after movement. The lines have well and truly clashed. In the shooting phase, the ballista is going to be firing into the combats where the knights are fighting the Uruk-hai.
5 will hit. So now I do a scatter roll. 4. The opponent gets to choose any of his models within 3 inches of the target or keep the target the same. Your guy goes back 2 inches.
Yep, and it's straight back.
Yep. You're going to take a strength 9 hit. 6 will kill him.
He is dead.
My guy takes a strength 6 hit. So I need a 5. Yeah, 4. And my guy loves it, but he is not prone.
That's the shooting phase done with the ballista firing, and into the combat phase, Will has just declared a heroic combat with his leader, the Uruk-hai captain. This is a risky move from Will. Even though the Uruk-hai captain has 3 attacks, he's the same fight value as that elf, so it's definitely not a guaranteed kill. We're gonna have to see if this pays off. I'm not sure it's a great idea.
I'm gonna call a heroic combat with Glorfindel down there in the hopes that he can wipe out the 2 Uruk-hai and then wrap around into this fight against Will's captain.
And a roll off to see who gets priority. Goes to me.
So goes evil, which means that captain can do his heroic combat first. And that fight, Brodie's just got a 6 with his elves.
And I also got 6.
And a 6, but they're both fight 5. So it's going to be a roll off. 1, 2, 3 will go evil, but no, there's an elven blade in there. So that means 1, 2 will go evil, 3, 4, 5, 6 will go good. 2 goes to evil.
Just what I like to see.
The Uruk-hai captain with the pike supports can easily take down that elf. That was risky, but looks like it's paid off for the Uruk-hai. And where's that Uruk-hai captain moving to next?
He is wrapping around into the cav.
The Uruk-hai charging into this cav was a great idea because they're super easy to kill, and that is a banner bearer. To make things worse for Brodie, Glorfindel won his fight, but he didn't kill his opponent, so his heroic combat didn't go off. On the flank, in the first fight, an elf was slain by the Uruk-hai. And in the second fight, the elves retaliated by slaying an Uruk-hai. In the next fight, an elf slayed another Uruk-hai who failed his fury roll, which is good killing power from the elves. And now, we have the Uruk-hai captain fighting against the elven banner bearer.
6.
So the Uruk-hai captain has won that fight, and can he get the kill?
Going for rider.
You defense 5 here.
2 6.
Yes, he can. The Rivendell knight has been slain with the banner. Brodie, what are you going to do here?
So the knight here was going to back away into this guy here so that he can swap the banner out right into this guy there. so the banner still survives.
And further across where the Rivendell Knights charged, an Uruk-hai with a shield was slain. And then a Berserker was also slain. And in the last two fights of the turn, the Rivendell captain lost a fight to a shielding Uruk-hai and was just pushed back. And then the Rivendell Knight who charged a single pikeman was slain. That's gotta hurt. Ouch, not killing with the captain and losing a knight has gotta feel bad for Brodie. Things might be looking bad for Brodie, but the good thing is he still has a lot of resources with 4 might on the board to Will's 1. And this next turn priority went to the Rivendell.
This little captain here is going to come through and move 3 inches so that he can come up to there. And then he is going to move his remaining 7 to charge into that one Uruk-hai up there.
This Rivendell captain might seem like he's abandoning his army, but I reckon that Brodie's sending him up the board so that hopefully he's going to be able to get his terrain piece captured.
Can we move through the house?
Yes, you can.
You can enter it.
You can enter it.
Right, fucking bear.
So if you need to...
Take that
So you
take
got...
off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, run through the house, dude.
Brodie opening up that house is interesting. It makes sense. He's definitely outnumbered by the Uruks on that side, so he can use that as a choke point, because only one Uruk can fit through that door at a time. He's charged into the captain with 2 Rivendell Knights, which would be enough to take down the captain in one turn if he wins that fight, but there's a lot of Uruk-hai that are going to be able to countercharge that cav and peel them off the captain.
And have the banner show inside the house there so that the models can still see him through that window there but can't be charged.
Oh yes, that is a sneaky tactical play.
These guys here, I'm going to have him wrap around up there and have a spear support help him, and have this guy come into combat here with another spear support, whilst Glorfindel manages to come down here and wrap up into these 2 models there.
And it's now Isengard movement. The Uruk-hai, unsurprisingly, are charging into that captain to try to slow him down. And it's just swarming onto those knights, trying to get traps and trying to take them down. There's a lot of Uruk-hai still on this side of the board, so they've got the numbers advantage. But if those knights win their fights, they'll really put out a lot of damage onto the Uruk-hai. The rest of the Uruks are just running around, and they've forgotten about the captain behind because they won't be able to catch him. And then it's just swarming Glorfindel. The terror from that shaman means that all of these Uruks don't need to take courage tests to charge Glorfindel, who of course causes terror. The Uruks that were going for the elves on the other side have turned around and they're ensuring that trap against Glorfindel. Now, this is one of those plays where Glorfindel has got very good odds of winning that fight, but it might cost him a might point, and if he loses, those Uruks will be able to put some serious damage on him. The board after movement, it looks like a mess over here. Models just everywhere, which goes into shooting. You right there?
I'm going to target this fella here with the ballista, needing a 4.
And a 4 to hit.
Scatter roll on that one. 3. I'm going to re-roll that with my Legendary Legion special roll for a 6. Hits the target, direct.
So, which elf is that hitting directly here?
Right here.
Perfect. Alright, how far back will he fly?
He is going 4 inches. Guys, the Uruk that was engaged with him takes a strength 6, does not die, knocked prone. The other model who was in base contact with him takes strength 6, does not get affected and is not prone.
In the combat phase, Brodie declared a heroic combat with his Rivendell captain who charged, fighting against 2 Uruk-hai. This is a pretty key moment, so let's see what happens in this fight.
6.
Goes to the captain, and can he kill both of them?
I'll go for this guy at the back here, needing 5s. He is gone.
Kills the first one.
And going in front. He gets him.
Kills them both.
And he can move his full distance again. Doesn't have to join a fight.
Great play from Brodie here. That captain is now well on his way to getting that terrain piece objective. I'm assuming Brodie is going for that pile of rocks there. Otherwise, he might still have a long way to go to score those points.
In that turn, we had these Urukai over here, knock out one of my Rivendell knights. And over here, my spearman managed to win the fight, but because he shielded, he couldn't make any strikes.
And this elf was slain by the pikemen. So Glorfindel charged, giving him 4 attacks against a horde of Urukai.
Get a 6.
Get on the 6.
And Glorfindel has won that fight. Hopefully he can do some damage here.
Alrighty.
Glorfindel managed to take down just 1 Urukai with that charge, which is a really disappointing result from him because he very easily could have done a lot more wounds than that. And in this cluster of fights, the Urukai captain killed an elf. And then the Rivendell knight killed a berserker and an Urukai, and then in the other combat, another pikeman was slain. They're making up for Glorfindel's shortcomings. And at the end of the turn, there's not many elves left alive here. At the beginning of next turn, they will be considered broken, which means that the game could suddenly end on a 1 or 2. Brodie went to Isengard, and Brodie called a heroic move with Glorfindel, which couldn't be countered because Will's out of might in that section of the board. Brodie's obviously running out of models at this point, but that absolutely does not mean he's out of this game. If he can keep his captain safe and that captain can take his terrain piece, that could get him a full 6 points. Brodie's goal at the moment is just to try to get to Will's heroes that aren't his leader, so that hopefully he can get his points. So that's the heroic done, and now Will's taking his movement, trying to counter the Rivendell forces as much as possible. Will should be feeling pretty confident at this point in the game because he's still got so many models, but you never know when there's a Lord of the West on the table what's going to happen. The good thing is that Ballista is going to be able to get a good shot at either Brodie's captain or into this blob of knights. And he's sending his Urukai captain in just to keep on fighting and hopefully cut down some more elves. On the other side of the board, the Urukai are just trapping the last few elves, guaranteeing that they're going to get those kills, no point leaving it up to chance. And interestingly, Will's actually moving one of his pikemen towards that building. I wonder if that's his terrain piece. That could score him 3 points. Unsurprisingly, on the other side of the table, Brodie's measuring out his captain's movement, and I wonder if he's going to go for that terrain piece, or if it's something else and he's just bluffing. He can definitely reach it. Yeah, he's gone for the rocks. That must be his secretly chosen terrain piece. And being in base contact with it means that if the game ends now, he'll get 3 points. This is our board after movement, and it is the shooting phase. This is a very important shooting phase for Will. So, what are you planning on doing?
Ballista team, firing straight at the captain. Let's see if I can get a few points, eh?
Alright, so you really need to get a hit here.
4 to hit. I do.
That hits. Now, how far back is it going to throw that captain?
Scatter first.
Scatter doesn't want a 1.
Automatically hits because a 1 would miss.
Absolutely.
So 6 to hit the target directly. He goes back 2 inches. Direct the line back. So he will end up.
And that is so important because now he's not in base contact with that terrain piece.
And also knock prone.
And knock prone, that's correct. But
Strength
can you
9 hit?
kill him?
So does a strength 9 hit? Yep.
Yeah, that'll get him.
You need a fate point to stay alive.
Yeah, I'm going to use my first.
That is a siege hit, so he will be instantly killed.
Yeah.
That is a devastating blow to the Rivendell force.
You fail your fate?
Yeah, that's gross.
In the combat phase, Glorfindel has called a heroic combat to hopefully take down some Urukai and maybe deny some points there. So let's see it.
Sitting on a 5.
So Glorfindel has won that fight.
5s for everyone. No. Second attack. He gets him. The other guy.
Does not.
Not. I've got one more attack though.
One more attack and Lord of the West.
Gets him.
Gets him.
Both of them. Red for one, green for the other. Here is the Feel No Pain, or
So the Fury
rolls.
saved from that Shaman.
Does not save.
No 6s. So those 2 models are slain, and Glorfindel can now move and charge, going into the Shaman. Following that fight, one of the Rivendell Knights was taken down. But the important thing is that Glorfindel's fighting that Shaman. Now, if that was the hero that Brodie chose to kill, Glorfindel killing him could get Brodie 3 whole points. And unfortunately, it looks like Brodie's just lost the fight with his other Rivendell Knight. And wow, that's a wound. He's been taken down as well. The Elf Banner in the doorway won his fight and just pushed back the Uruk. And now it's into the big important combat. We've got Glorfindel fighting the Shaman.
I get that. which means that I will need 5s. on all
Fours?
of
Oh no,
them.
you don't have less.
Yeah, so 5s on all of these.
So 2.
1, 2, Lords of the West.
2 feel no pain
Yeah, I'll-
before fate.
1.
Counts as 1.
How many wins has he got?
He's got 2.
Sweet.
He now takes a fate roll. Saves it.
Passes
Yep.
that.
So he takes no wounds.
Yep.
So that shaman has managed to dodge getting killed, not by much. Wow. And at the end of the turn, because the elves are broken, we roll a dice, and on a 1 or 2, the game is over. And there we go. That is it. Will managed to kill Brodie's captain, which scored him 3 points. Brodie failed to kill his target, which was the shaman, which meant he got 0 there. Then Will kept his siege veteran alive for 3 points, and Brodie's captain was dead, which means he gets 0 there. Will managed to take his objective, which is the small Rohan house in the back, while Brodie was unable to capture him. So again, that's 3-0 to Will. And finally, Brodie was broken and Will remained unbroken, which is a final score of 12 to Will and 0 to the Rivendell Elves. I was not expecting a final score of 12-0. Had that gone differently, Brodie could have gotten 9 points in that final turn. Super unlucky that he ended up going down that hard.
It was a good game. I definitely made some mistakes early on getting pushed back by the ballista. I think that a lot of the game was dictated by the placement right at the very beginning and which sides were chosen.
Yeah, the game was went really well. He made a few mistakes here and there because he didn't want the threat of that ballista hitting him hard and in the face.
This means that Brodie is the first person eliminated from the Conquest Champions League. Will advance into the next round. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned, because the next round's coming out in a fortnight.